Hello and welcome. We're in conversation with Dr. Norman Sartorius, the former director of the World Health Organization's Division of Mental Health and also the former president of the World Psychiatric Association. Thank you for talking to us, Dr. Sartorius. It's a pleasure having you here. I'm going to start off on a slightly negative question. What do you think is the biggest hurdle in the progress of the understanding of mental health?
Well, I think that the greatest hurdle to providing people with appropriate care and making people who have mental illness live in a community in a human way is stigmatization. That is, people who have mental illness carry a stigma. Their illness marks them in a way that makes people shy away from them and makes people be afraid and see them as being dangerous, not being human really. And this attitude makes everything that you want to do for them extremely difficult. So that unless one can change that image of the mentally ill person and change the image also of the life that they lead, it's very difficult to make any progress. So I would say that the greatest hurdle to improving mental health care is stigma today, worldwide.
And what role do psychiatrists, mental health experts, psychiatrists and psychologists play in this?
Well, the stigma is really, to a large extent, omnipresent. It's everywhere. It's present among the doctors, it is present among the policemen, it's present among the general population. They all have a feeling that the mentally ill people are of no value, that they will never improve, that they are dangerous, that they are in many ways should not be touched, should not be looked at. And I think that this attitude makes them also confuse any information that you might give them. You can say that, for example, we know today that people who have mental retardation or who have depression have 10 times less crimes than people who do not have mental illness. But they don't believe it. They say no, because their stigma marks their way of hearing, marks their way of seeing things. So unless one can change the stigma, one cannot really build up programs.
And what is the best practice to overcome the stigma?
Undoubtedly, the most powerful way of diminishing stigma is social contact. Once you've sat together with a person with a mental illness and spoken to such a person, you suddenly discover that he's in no way particularly different from anybody else. Of course, when a person has an acute bout of illness, he's different from what he is when he is not having such a bout of illness. But that's true for all illnesses. If you have a person who is having a severe pulmonary illness or cardiac illness, they're also not quite the same with the illness as without. But for most of their time, people with mental illness, we would not be able to tell the difference. Yet, people shy away, and so they never know that. Knowledge has a certain amount of influence on that, but not very much, because people, when you provide them with knowledge, they selectively remember. They remember only things that are in tune with their opinion about the person. So changing the opinion, changing the attitude is probably the first task.
Right. So what can an organization like White Swan Foundation do to minimize stigma?
Well, I think that one thing that you might wish to try is maybe to employ one or the other person with mental illness to be one of your speakers. Because people who have mental illness, we've seen this in many places, when you go to schools, for example, you go to enterprises, to factories, if you have a person who speaks about his own illness, and people look at him and say, that's impossible, he speaks so well, how can it be that he is mentally or was mentally ill? And I think that that's already would be a very positive step, and I hope that your organization will have one or two people who have mental illness and who are willing and able to speak about it in a clear way. So that would be one thing to do. Another thing, of course, would be to try to see to what an extent young people in the health professions can be educated in a manner that will diminish their probability, diminish the probability that they themselves will be stigmatized. Because they are also not necessarily different from other people. And in general, we have seen in more recent times that the most useful way of dealing with stigma is not to shoot a general message at everybody, but to have very specific messages. What do they, for example, how do you inform a policeman about mental illness is very different from what you do when you inform a journalist about mental illness or a doctor about mental illness. So I think that is a second important feature of it. One is that you try to make people who had the experience speak about it to others, because that becomes much more believable. Secondly is to orient programs to specific groups of people, trying to think of what opportunities do they have to see people with mental illness and what could they do in their own job, in their daily life to deal with mental illness. Equally so, not only professional groups, but also people who look after the mentally ill, families, for example. They are also at a loss. Suddenly they find themselves with a person who has a mental illness and they feel terrible about it. They are not sure whether maybe they are contributing to this illness. Sometimes they feel guilty about it. Sometimes they feel ashamed. Sometimes they feel afraid. All of these things make their life a misery. And so working with families would be another a third, so to say, area in which I would think would be very helpful.
Over the years, for the past 5 decades, psychiatry has made a lot of progress, and there is a lot of progress to be made. Where does the profession stand as of now?
Well, I think that many of the possibilities that the current knowledge about psychiatric illness could offer are not really used very well, because the past has brought with it not only stigmatization, but also the consequences of stigma in, for example, the distribution of resources. In many countries, in many institutions, the part that is given to the protection of mental health and to the prevention of mental illness is very small, maybe 1 or 2%, although we know today that at least 2/5 of all disability in the world is due to mental illness. But if you compare the amount of resources that are being put into the field of psychiatry and the amount of trouble that can be created because diseases are not treated, it's a huge distinction. So I think that blocks much of the progress that we could make with the knowledge which we have. So much of what we know today is not getting used and is not given a chance to be useful to the population, people with mental illness. That goes particularly for the field of prevention, for example, where we know that certain things could be very well presented, but people shy away from it. Of course, one has to remember that much of the prevention of mental disorders is not done by psychiatrists. It is done by other people. I'll give you an example. There is a fairly high proportion of people who are short-sighted, children, and if you do not correct their vision in time, the chances are that they will learn less, and when they learn less, they will be considered as being slow and retarded, and their whole life may be, in fact, then be a life of a retarded person, although they are perfectly able to learn more if you give them a chance. But parents in some countries, they don't want their children to wear glasses because they feel that this is making a girl less pretty and making a boy less strong, and so they don't give them glasses, although that really diminishes the input which they get from the world, diminishes their development, diminishes their growth, and so it's a very bad thing. And yet it is such a simple measure that one could take, and there are numerous similar simple measures that come out of knowledge of psychiatry today that could be used but are not being used. So my feeling is that today's psychiatry is in a huge disproportion between what we know and how it is applied. I think much of the knowledge today is not being applied. Concerning the treatment of the mentally ill, I think we have also made great progress, and today it is quite clear that much of mental illness can be appropriately treated. Some of the people will have to continue with the treatment as long as they are alive, but for the large majority they have an episode of illness which can be treated well if it's brought to the attention of a qualified person,
Right.
And after that, life will in fact continue without any further traces of such an illness. So I think I would call the current state of psychiatry an era of missed opportunities.
There are a number of disorders where the causes in there are not yet very well established, and we have to progress to it.
It's a. Let me take the example of child mental health and child mental illness. If you look at the causes which are leading to mental illness in a child, you will see that there are several of them. There's for example, maternal mental illness, paternal criminality, overcrowding, frequent hospitalizations for any physical reason or any other reason, and a number of other factors. Now, when only one of those factors is present, the probability that the child will have a mental illness is not much elevated. But as the number of those risk factors increases, the probability that the child will fall ill is increasing as well. That is both a problem for research, but it's also a great hope for what we are doing about these children, because while we perhaps cannot change the paternal criminality, the fact that the father was a criminal, we can change other things. We can change the way in which the child lives, we can help the mother to look after the child better, we can think about ways of protecting the school time of the child, etc. So there are many risk factors that lead to mental illness, and it doesn't really matter which of them we remove, because removal of any one of them will decrease the probability of an illness. So some of them are unmovable, but that doesn't matter because we can really work with others and have a significant effect.
Thank you, Dr. Sartorius, for talking to us. It was a pleasure talking to you.